What's going on, guys? Alec here from Fury Gaming. Today I'm here to get stuck into the Hammerhead and maybe try and clear up some unknown issues about the Hammerhead in regards to its firepower and what it's going to really be great for. So to start us off with a bit of history. The Hammerhead was originally designed back in the 28th century in lore to be an anti-aircraft ship. They were trying to change up the whole idea of how they did war, and basically that's what this ship came to be. There have been 4 different iterations of it, or 4 different models, I suppose you could say, with different things, like A, B, and C, similar to what we see with main battle tanks and things like that. So this ship is unique for not just the fact of it's an anti-aircraft dedicated ship, but it does have some multi-purpose uses. Throughout history, it's been outfitted with different set of components, as well as having the ability to carry cargo and have different sorts of things attached to it. For example, it used to have a dedicated radar assembly, but that got changed out for a turret. So let's talk about the interior as well. The bridge itself is unique in its positioning, and in my opinion would allow for great air-to-ground combat as a suppressor or just chasing targets down. Being a nimble and quick ship for its size, I could see it being really good at hunting down the Timbrel, or Tumbrel, I apologise, vehicles, or an Ursa rover. It might struggle against a Nox or an X1, but you get the idea. Also internally on the hallways, I could see this being a ship that would be well defended, being military grade. So they went through 7 different iterations of the Hammerhead with different ideas, and thankfully this idea won out, because looking at these different ones they put up, in my opinion they weren't really the greatest. They wouldn't have sold me on it. Now, talking about the ship itself, it's quite a large ship at 100 meters, but compared against the Javelin or the Idris, it is still small. Hence why it's nimble and able to get around and do what it does well. If it was slow, it wouldn't be able to keep up with your fighters such as the Sabre or an M50 Interceptor, perhaps if you've got pirates you're chasing down, things like that. So speaking about fighting, it's got 6 turrets, or main turrets, which have 4 guns at size 4 each. So for example, that would be an Apocalypse Revenant Arm Gatling gun, or you'll be hearing ballistic cannon, which are pretty decent guns, and with a lot more on the way. We have different options that these can mount to. Now these are all manned turret, these 6 turrets, and as we can see, they're very unique in the way you get into them and the way they move. Other thing I want to talk about too is there's 2 unmanned turrets, as well as 32 size 3 missiles, which will be all over the ship. There's 4 different racks, 2 of those are on top and 2 of those are on the bottom, and they are basically hidden racks, so they hide away, like those engines do there. So as we can see here with the turrets coming out and all that sort of business going on, the ship is really cool. It's got some great colour, and besides the cosmetics of it, it's got some great inner design in my opinion. The way it looks and the way they've really thought about building it, in my opinion, has really come through and looked good. Now, as what we saw, there was the initial blockade idea, and obviously that's different a bit. But as we can see here, they have the crew quarters and everything placed in as it should be. The captain has his own quarters, and it's the way it is. There's a docking ring, docking space, as well as a 40 SCU cargo space at the back, which will hold a rover. So, it's basically going to be similar size to what the Andromeda is, in my opinion. So that also will drop to the ground when you land on hydraulic ramps. Now they talked too about other parts such as doing jumps and doing escorts and things, because in my opinion I would really like to use this ship as an escort for my flotilla with my mates. So we're planning to run like a merchantman, a starfarer for that refueling, and then a carrack if we decide to go in deep space doing some exploration and things like that. But I want to note here that the fuel intakes are medium, as well as the quantum fuel tanks are medium size, which I find quite interesting of a ship of this size. Now, the computers and other stuff, we're really not sure what that's about, but considering the power plant and a lot of this other stuff is of the large category, I was quite surprised. Now, note too, in this area, there's no information about the unmanned turret, so I'm a bit skeptical about what they're going to be. There's no information from what I can find. But then it's also talked to about the ship's stats here. Now, a lot of the stats are blanked out because they really don't know. They've just sort of started doing the design for it. Now, the way they've been building it, I'd say it would be a ship that we'll see soon, because it would definitely be more used than an Idris or something, being the fact that it is like that small org size ship where you get a few mates, a few NPCs, and you can go have some fun. But yeah, 100 meters long. It's basically the same length as your Caterpillar if you're wanting to get an idea of the length of the ship, and some nice width and height, but it's still fairly thin, so it'd be interesting trying to navigate an asteroid field when you're trying to move through things. So guys, that sort of brought me to the end of this discussion. I talked about pricing and things in my last video. I'll be bringing out one for the Hawk to talk about the more in depth of that, but this is pretty much the way I see that Hammerhead is that it's a unique vessel that has a great opportunity to do a lot of damage, but don't overthink it because it will probably not be able to compete against capital ships. So guys, that's where we're leaving it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did like it, dislike obviously if you didn't like it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll catch you guys around the verse. Toodaloo.